Okay. So, do you have the email? Okay. So, it says, to address your first paragraph from the other day in our chat with Kim. God, it's going to be so embarrassing for me to read out loud on this. Okay, first of all, I would like to note that you said the same exact thing before I simply agreed by sharing my own feelings. I do feel as though this relationship is going nowhere. I know that I tried very hard in the beginning to make this work. To quote the letter you wrote me after we broke up, no one has...
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
To quote the letter you wrote me after we broke up, no one has the room to be themselves anymore. I take full responsibility for that and can see why you would pull away after so long. I could blame you and say that you didn't fight for us, but you did. I just wasn't able to hear you.
Okay. So... Okay. First of all, I would like to note that you said the same exact thing. Okay, yes. But there's a difference, like, I feel like this relationship is going nowhere because I feel like you're not meeting me. Okay, so now I'm remembering where I wanted to go with this. So, you remember the conversation we had the last time we saw each other about social media and then side relationships, and then how people aren't fully committed. They have one foot out the door. It's the same thing. Is it? We're getting the same result from something different. You have one foot out the door because you don't feel like this relationship is gonna work, right? I have one foot out the door because I don't feel like you're there, right?
I'm not entirely.
Okay, that's fine. So, like I said, it's a circle, right? I don't feel a connection. I feel like you're gone because you are, and I've felt this way for a long time. What? Do you remember why we broke up the first time?
After the sub shop?
No, the first time we broke up.
I
broke up with
honestly
you.
really don't even count that as like a breakup. But
Why? Because I took you back the same day.
yeah. But not entirely, to be honest. It was so long ago.
Because I broke up with you because I felt a distance. I felt you pulling away. And I said that you're going to break my heart, so I'm going to end this relationship before that happens. That's why we broke up the first time. And that was how long ago? How long ago have I felt this distance from you?
It's been a long time.
A long time. Every time I try to talk to you about it, it gets nowhere, right? What are some of the things that you do to end the conversation every time, right? An excuse you always have, right? Or not always, but an excuse you've used before. I think that I can recall one time. I'm not going to try to make it so you say this all the time. The relationship have a honeymoon period, right? That's an excuse you've used before. How long have I been trying to? Okay, I'm an overthinker, right? And what did you tell me overthinkers need? Great communication. They need to be in a relationship with somebody and have great communication. Every time that I've started this spiral with thought loops, whenever we been able to talk and communicate, it's been able to stop, right?
I disagree with that.
Okay. And that's fine. So, the most recent thought loop and spiral, right, was what you thought this whole thing was about, that you said to Kim, about when you showed up to Thomas's birthday, you thought it was about going to the concert, right? That I was upset at you about something about going to the concert. You thought that there was no connection or something, or at least that's what, I don't know, because I can't hear you.
So I had asked you almost a week prior. I told you about this thing, and you didn't say no.
Right.
You just said, "Oh, that's Thomas's birthday."
Right.
So, I expected you to be up there and, obviously spend the night with your brother.
Yeah.
So, when you just, when I got up there, when I surprised you, and then you, all of a sudden threw into the bag, well, do you want me to go with you?
Because
I didn't.
You didn't. Why?
Because I know you, and you did not have time to prepare yourself emotionally or mentally for a situation like that. I made a promise to my friend. It was her birthday, and who likes being the person with another person who puts a damper on their night because they don't want to be there? Right. And that's really what I felt was going to happen.
That was a good call, because that's
I know
right.
That's what would have happened.
Because that is right. And so the whole thing with you telling me about it a week before, and me saying it was Thomas's birthday, that is true. It was Thomas's birthday. And so obviously I had an obligation to be there at my brother's birthday.
And I wouldn't have wanted to pull you away from that.
Right. And so I didn't know what that was going to look like going all night, or what it was going to be, right? And so...
Sorry.
And so that's why I never said whatever, right? But it was, the whole thought loop about, I asked you to go to a concert with me the weekend before, and you said, oh, I'm tired, I want to stay in, right?
Well, I still had school, too.
I know. And then that's what we talked about at the picnic, right? But that's what, it starts these things, and if I can't communicate and talk to you honestly and openly, right? Because... like Kim says, I'm an empath, and when you, I believe that's the right way how to pronounce that,
empath.
Right? Empath. But I can feel the disconnect.
I know you can.
I can feel you pull away.
I know.
And when I try to talk to you about it, and I try to address you about it, I know that's why I didn't write. I rode my bike to work today, but I didn't write it down here because I was like, oh, the weather's about to get crazy. I can feel that.
I know.
And I understand. We can't just you can't just boom and be like it's our first date, But okay, that letter I feel was probably the most intimate moment that we've had together, and why I was so adamant about meeting in person instead of doing this over the phone. Because I don't want to have that intimate moment with the girl on the phone. We're past that. I feel like I want to have that moment with my girlfriend Heather, or as I knew you as my girlfriend. And you don't have to come back 100%. I understand that. But what I do need from you is I do need that intimacy, and even that letter, like the Matthew Hussey thing said, and so I've been trying to communicate this, and I haven't been able to. And so this is the issue, the connection, right? It's not the whole. So, okay, hold on.
If you need another one, I'll tell you.
So, it's about connection, right? And before I heard that Matthew Hussey podcast, I said, it's not about texting, it's about intimacy, it's about closeness, right? And what so when you so let's go back to the picnic, right? So when you showed up and you surprised me at my brother's birthday, that was awesome. But as soon as you left, there was the distance. There was the you not responding.
Well, I mean, I texted you and told you, like, hey, I'm on my way. I probably won't talk to you until
no
morning.
Okay, yeah. And so that's not when it started, right? But then it was the next morning, and it's the weeks to follow. It's literally been.
I came up to see you the next day.
Okay, then maybe it wasn't that next day, but it was as soon as you left, it was the same thing. The distance, the 45 minutes, an hour, 3 hours to respond to a text message. And it isn't about the text message, right? What it's about, right, is me trying to address these issues, this disconnect, these things that I can feel that's destroying me, that's literally like making me crazy. And I get fabricated stories. I get beating around the bush, right?
From me?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean by that?
So, when I say, okay, so when I say about texting, about disconnect, about a connection, I need to feel you there, right? It's always been about, I'm at school, I'm busy, I can't, right? And I want to thank you. As painful as it is to hear that, it's
Hear that I'm in school, or
no, that it isn't. Yeah. So what triggered me? So I had, about. I'm sorry. About let's go back to the picnic, right? So I even like I made a choice. It isn't a rubber band like where you said like I'm happy, I'm not, I'm happy. I literally made a choice to give you attitude like after that weekend, right? I made a choice to ignore you. I did. And
But I do feel like it is a rubber band because, like, after that weekend, like, we had such a nice day on Sunday.
But hold on, okay, but we did. But so let's talk. I'm really sorry, but that sparked another thought, right? So as much as I like to say, like, me remembering the candies that your grandfather got you on Halloween, like how sweet that is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm missing the fundamental, right, of what you need from me, right? It's not about buying you the right candies at Valentine's Day. It isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you showing up at my brother's birthday, it was fucking killer. Just like me buying you your grandfather's candies, that was killer in the moment. But fundamentally, it isn't important. What I've been asking from you, or what I've been begging from you, is that connection, that intimacy, that deepness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a choice. I said, Ross, like, you can see the effort. Do you really want to do this?
What effort? What do you mean?
The effort that you made,
mm-hmm.
The effort that you've been making since we've gone to counseling, right? But you're still missing what I've been asking you so deeply about a connection, the texting, all this stuff that you've been beating around the bush, right? About saying you're busy, it's school, it's this, it's that. It isn't. Because it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter if you're home. You admittedly avoid conversation with me because you don't know where it's gonna go, right? So as painful as that is to hear, I want to thank you for finally admitting it to me, because now we can move on and we can work on it.
I mean, I think I've told you that on multiple occasions, to be fair.
You've told me like once or twice about oh god, it just slipped, I'm sorry. But yes, once or twice. But when I try to talk to you about it, it's always a beat around the bush. I'm busy, like, and there's other examples I can pull from, right? About you wanting to be in an open relationship, right? How many accusations, how many times where like, I'm feeling this from you, and you deny it, you beat around the bush, and it isn't until we break up a year later that you admit that you want these desires, to have this openness, right? And it's this frustration that boils over when I see these things and I feel these things. I try to talk to you about them, and they get nowhere. And
were they gonna get anywhere to begin with?
Yeah, they would get us to this point where that's not an option. And if that isn't okay with you, then there's nowhere to proceed with this relationship. That's where it would get us. And that's the only where it can get us. So, like that, we need to address these problems that we have. And let's continue to read the letter.
The last thing that was said was the quote from your
My note, yeah.
note. No one has the room to be themselves anymore. I take full responsibility for that and can see why you would pull away after so long. I could blame you and say that you didn't fight for us, but you did. I just wasn't able to hear you. And then I go on and
I need you to continue to fight for us.
I desperately...
Just like I'm fighting. Like I'm fighting for us.
I don't really have much fight left, if you want me to be honest.
Then... I don't either. I don't want to fight, and I don't want to argue. So we can go over, and we can have a list of... I was thinking about this as well. A list of what we expect from each other. We're going to have like more deep conversations about what we view as what we view flirting as, what we view cheating as. We need to have hard set definitions and outlines, and we need to have like expectations of what happens when we feel like somebody crosses that line. So I've been thinking about, the whole like the flirting thing, right? And what am I gonna do? Like, if we're at a bar and I feel like you're flirting with somebody and I don't like it, right? So what I think that needs to happen in a situation like that, whether you think it's justified or not, I need you to pull away from that, and we can discuss that with Kim in therapy. Because I think what happened last week, the whole miscommunication about
what, in our session?
Yeah, about me thinking that you threatened to leave, and me taking that personally, and that fueled a reaction out of me, out of a misunderstanding, or not a misunderstanding, but for her to step in like that could have been something that was so easily spiraled out of control.
It did spiral out of control.
I don't think it did. It was a lot. But yeah, I think that I figured out. So I tried to like get the app on my phone or on my computer, because I think it's my phone that won't let me do it. My phone's too old, because I contacted the tech support and stuff. But I can't get the app on my computer, and I don't know, I'll try their website and try to log on through their website, and if I can't do it on my computer, then I'll do it on Tom's computer, and then if not, I'll find a way to make it work. But yeah, we need to have hard set outline definitions, right? So let's even talk about like the way that we speak to each other.
Can we
Right.
just talk about the letter for now?
I would like to say this and then we can.
Okay.
So we can even like I want to have like I will promise you I will never raise my voice to you. I will always talk to you like this. If you promise to always talk to me like this, to keep an open mind about what each other is trying to say, to listen to understand, and to not listen to get defensive and protect our egos. And I know that's going to be impossible to do at all times, but we can take our problems now to somebody else, right? It doesn't have to be a fight to the death, and it can't be.
To be honest, I don't really think that Kim is going to be able to help us. Not
And
saying
it's
that
the-
therapy
and it's-
is bad, but her specifically, I don't.
I honestly don't think she's ready to handle it either. But listen to me. I need an openness and a willingness and like an optimism from you about this relationship. And I know it's hard to be optimistic. It's hard for me to be optimistic. But that's the fight I need from you right now. And that's the fight that you're getting out of me, right? When my first therapy with Kim, how happy I was is because I just let it go, right? And that's the fight that we need, is to let it go, to let in the optimism, to let the light back into the relationship. And the fight that we don't need in this relationship anymore is the tooth and claw, because it has gotten us nowhere. It's literally, well, no, it's gotten us somewhere, but nowhere good. And that's a promise that I will make to you. I will never argue with you again.
Don't make that promise.
If I do, and if I feel like you're starting to argue with me, we just drop our tone, we say really softly, look each other in the eye, and we can talk about this with Kim. Okay? And then we just drop it until we're in therapy to talk about it. And that is the promise I can make to you. I can't promise that I'll never raise my voice to you.
I think you're making promises that you're not necessarily going to be able to keep.
Okay, so I'll alter it, right? I altered it, right? And that is a promise I can't keep. But the whole thing about when I try to talk to you about the way that you talk to me in the sub shop, or whenever, hold on, please listen with an open mind to understand and to hear, right? When I talk to you about a tone you use, right, your response is always what you say, but you talk to me this way, right? And I understand I do talk to you that way, and we can talk about that, we can address it, but I think we just did, right? I promise I won't talk to you that way anymore. I'll talk to you like your lover, right? Like your lover should. Softly, kindly, friendly, playfully, right? But I need that from you as well. And when I address to you, Heather, I don't like the way that you're speaking to me right now, right? The only response is to say, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing that, right? And when I speak to you in a way that you don't like, you can address me and you can tell me that you don't like that, right? And I'll say, okay, I'm sorry, I'll work on that. I won't say, oh, but you say this. Oh, but you did this. It's almost like the sidetrack, like, or to, what do they say, like railroad my argument, you know?
I just think that our definitions of playful are completely different.
Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that as well, right? About right? So I actually thought about that as well. Go figure. So we can, our definitions of playful, right? The last time that we were together, right? You were being playful about. I think you said something about Johnny Depp, and you're like, oh, he can get it, and then you looked at me with like this little smile, right? Do you remember
I think I said I'd fuck him.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, right? You said I'd fuck him, and then you looked at me with like this little playful smile, right? And that's fine, but at the same time, it was like it was borderline, because right, because we haven't had a communication about having open relationships. We haven't had communication about what flirtation is, right? About your desire to have other men outside of the relationship, right? Why are you smiling?
To be honest, I'm just running through my head. This is the double standard that I'm talking about, that I wrote about. Do you know how many times, and it doesn't bother me, please let me listen. You've pretty much talked like this entire time.
I see what you're about to do, though. You're about to say, you speak to me in one way.
Can I please speak for myself? You literally said throughout, like I said, the only thing about it that bothers me is the double standard. I know that there are other incredibly beautiful, smart, funny, like wonderful women out there. Please let me finish. So when you make comments about like, oh, I'd fuck her, which you do quite often, like just joking around, yes, you do. Yeah, yes, you have.
Give me one example. I'll give you one example. The only example that I did like unconsciously was was Beck, when she was like about to take a shower and her ass was hanging out, and I was like, oh damn, and then I was like, oh shit, my girlfriend is like right there, and then you're like, oh, that's fine, like I know she's hot. I've never said like, oh, I want to fuck
not
somebody.
To like somebody like that we've seen out in public or whatever, but you've openly made comments about like other beautiful women,
and people are beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I want to have an intimate moment with them outside of my relationship.
Right, but it doesn't like mean like, just because I'd say I'd fuck Johnny Depp doesn't mean I'm ever gonna fuck. Like, it was joking around.
I know, baby. But what I'm saying is that that's the borderline, right? That like we need to have these communications, and I need to feel secure in that subject, right? But what I'm trying to say is what you just said is the only problem you have with it is the double standard, right? The only reason that it bothers you is because it bothers me, right? Mm-hmm. The only reason you ever bring up like, oh, the way I talk to you is when I try to bring up, oh, the way you talk to me. And then I feel like the only reason it bothers you is because the double standard. Oh, yeah. You do that too. Mm-hmm. Then that means that's not a real requirement of yours. You're only saying that because I require it.
Right, it's a double standard. And well, that's not entirely true. Please, you like I said, you've talked pretty much like this whole time. There have been times where I have straight up felt absolutely disrespected, and certain things that you said I have felt were coming from a mean place, but you were doing it in a joking manner. And when I call you out on it, you say, oh, it was a joke. And then when I tell you the same thing, it spirals. It turns into like this whole thing. So that goes into what I was saying. Like, well, if
something I do is
I have justified and made excuses for certain types of behavior that you have had, things that you've said.
Don't do it then. If something I do is unacceptable to you, let me know, because I will literally. I'll do anything for you. I just need to know what that is. And so if something I do to you is unacceptable, you need to let me know.
I have before, and it hasn't gone well.
Okay, well then when that happens, what do? We can take that to the therapist, right?
Do you want to keep going?
Sure.
I desperately wanted you and wanted to make this relationship that we had both fantasized about for so long. I wanted you and I wanted this relationship that we both fantasized about for so long. And put on the yellow dress and sang A Tale as Old as Time. It didn't work. I ignored so many red flags, thinking that I could somehow get you to see things in life differently. I've only ever wanted to be the best for you. I have only ever wanted the best for you. I now know how naive of me that was. I knew better, but...
It's not naive of you.
Yeah, it was. Because how... You can't change somebody if they're stuck in their ways.
You have changed me in so many ways. And I'm still...
I realize that, but I can't...
You can't force change on me.
Exactly. And that's what I feel like, to a certain extent, what I've been trying to do.
And I've been trying to do that to you as well.
Yeah.
Right? So what we're trying to do now...
But I feel like... Alright, honesty's on the table. Like, I feel like yours have been for selfish reasons.
Then give me an example. You can't just leave an open-end statement like that. Just put all the weight on me without telling me like a hard, concrete detail. Why do you feel that way?
I feel like you have tried to bend me to your will to get your own needs met, which is not necessarily a bad thing in a relationship. Obviously, like, people are in relationships to get certain needs met, right? But like,
I'm just curious as to what my needs are. What you feel that I've...
Validation. Time spent together all of the time.
People in a relationship should want to spend time together.
Yeah, exactly. And I did want to spend time with you very often. I literally spent almost every single weekend last summer at your house and more.
It was literally our first year of dating, Heather.
But my intentions were always solely because, like, I see you. I see so many different parts of you, and I see you as a whole, and I know that I don't know how else to put this, so please don't take this the wrong way, but I know that you're not, like, living up to this full, like, you're not in your light, and I know that sounds like fucking woo-woo whatever, but, like,
no, I honestly, I have...
So I've been trying to, like, get you to see things in a different way. Yeah, I know, but, like, you have to come to certain things on your own, and, like, no matter how much I push or have pushed in the past, because I don't feel like I really have been pushing much lately. Maybe I have been and just not really noticing it, but, like...
I agree.
Like, it's beyond frustrating when I see, like, these little glimmers of, like, you know, like I said, like, these little moments where, like, I see the Ross that I want to see all of the time, and that it's just, like, 90% of the time that's not what is in front of me.
Right, and that's my best me. That's what you want so desperately,
yeah.
Right? Like how your best you, what I want so desperately from you. That intimacy, that connection, that girl that was so close to me, that girl that used to, the way you used to look at me.
I haven't looked at you like that in a long time.
I know. Just like I realize I can't ask that girl to come back like that. I can't come back to you just like that either.
I know.
And like how I have, I know I can't expect you to look at me that same way, but I'll settle for a heartfelt letter. Settle for a glimpse. So need a glimpse of what the future looks like, you can look right here at my openness, at my willingness to be here and to talk and to communicate with you, my openness to be in therapy, my honesty in therapy. I'm desperately, just like you desperately need the fighting to stop. But I'm not willing to give up on you.
I'm sorry. I haven't been able to brush my teeth very well, so I should be on the back of my throat.
What else is supposed to say? God, you quote my letter like 4 times.
Oh, well, there was a lot more that I could have quoted.
You're gonna kill me.
Alright. I put on the yellow dress and sang A Tale as Old as Time. It didn't work. I ignored so many red flags, thinking I could somehow to get you to see things in life differently. I've only ever wanted the best for you. I now know how naive of me that was. I knew better, but I still chose you over and over again because I love you. That is not to say that we didn't share many amazing moments full of bliss and joy together in between. I know that we both have each other to credit and thank each other for when it comes to certain levels of growth within ourselves throughout our relationship. However, you're right. As we have discussed many times before, the constant arguments have given me a reason to pull away. How am I supposed to feel a desire to be intimate and connected to you when I feel as though I'm constantly walking on eggshells, never knowing what Ross I'm going to get every day on what many times feels like it's on a minute-to-minute basis?
Okay,
To quote your letter again,
hold on, baby. You get the same Ross every day. I demand the same thing every day. Sorry. Wait.
It's good.
I've demanded the same thing from the very beginning, right? And when I don't see that, when I don't get that, it's the repetition. That's what is frustrating to me, right? Is that I ask for this intimacy, this connection, right? And you show up as a surprise, and it's like, yes, that's great. It was awesome. Like, you fucking took my breath away. But that's not what I've been asking for.
Touches more on that if you want. Okay. To quote your letter again, when you said you feel emotionally exhausted, like you never know what is going to upset me, you were echoing the complaints of so many in my past. When I sit down and think of where my life is heading compared to where I dream it's headed, I fear those two are different places.
And I still feel like that's true.
I feel like this relationship is like a rubber band. We go through a period where we stretch, where it seems as though we are on a forward trajectory, and then snap. Something happens, whether it has something to do with me or not, and it goes right back to the small, reactive version of how things were and have always been.
Okay.
Quote, we could go on and on trying to pinpoint the start of the problem, but if I'm being honest, I think we would both agree that they have always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll get into, I think, what you were trying to touch on. I have no qualms with that statement. I cannot feel safe to share my life with someone when I don't know what to expect the majority of the time other than constant disagreements and emotionally dysregulated arguments. I quite honestly feel like no matter what I do or say, it doesn't matter. I can't control how you react to things. I can only control how I do, and I know that. I realize that I may have not always responded in a constructive manner. For that, I'm sorry. Yet after not feeling heard, or like my feelings were not being regarded for so long, or feeling like I had put so much into trying to regulate you that I had nothing else to give, it has been challenging to consistently do so. I feel like I tried to share so much of my life with you in the beginning of our relationship, even when things were starting to become contentious. However, whenever I tried to call you or talk to you about what was going on in my life, I was met with responses that erred on the side of, I don't have time to deal with your shit when I have my own shit to deal with, or outright judgment. There may have been times where you didn't have the emotional bandwidth to take something on, as we all may feel at times, but human relationship is a reciprocal space, and one can only hold so much for someone else without feeling as though the same is being done for them before shutting down.
So how do you feel like I will give you that. I'm not good with phone calls. And when you called me that one day, I was at work, you called me and to complain about like Tess and Josh. It was frustrating. But that was over a year ago. And like I so desperately wish that you would fucking call me. Appreciation is also a rubber band. Like,
but the thing is, like, it's not just phone calls. You have such a low emotional threshold to deal with stress. And that has been consistent throughout our entire relationship.
My entire life.
Yeah. So, in the beginning of our relationship, when things were easy, I guess, you could say.
For the first 2 months.
It was easy for me to hold that space for you because things were so fresh and so new, and it wasn't a pattern quite yet, if you understand what I'm saying.
Like the patterns that are so frustrating for me.
Yeah. So it's like I said, when relationships are reciprocal and one person can only take so much, like can only hold so much space, be a container for another person for so long without feeling like that's reciprocated before entirely shutting down and just literally
stress, baby? How much stress of yours did I hold when you sold your Subaru?
A lot.
I held everything, and I don't know, like,
I mean,
I made your problem my problem because
you did, but you still didn't really handle it in a particularly great way. And that's not to say I'm so grateful for your help and obviously everything that you did. Like, you know, I can never thank you enough for that. But it was still like,
it was a stressful time for both of us. Yes.
Yeah.
And to see you cry broke my heart. And to feel like responsible for that broke my heart, because when you decided to sell your Subaru, you were so excited. You were so happy to tell me, Ross, I posted my car up, I'm so excited to get rid of this, and I was so happy for you, and then it just turned into a nightmare.
Why did you feel responsible for that? Because you told me that I needed to get rid of that car. I mean, I knew I needed to get rid of that car. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you're definitely pushed me to do so. Not that was a bad thing by any means. I don't feel as though you were. I don't feel like you were responsible for that at all.
Okay. I tried to hold space for you, right? When we started to go to counseling, and you told me that you're truly busy at school, right? And I tried to make compromise with you, right? Just tell me good morning. Tell me when you're headed home. Tell me like when you're safe, right? And I won't bother you, and I won't escalate. I won't make a big deal, right? And I held that for you, even though it hurts to not hear from you, to feel that disconnect, even though that thing tells me like, dude, really? She can't find 30 seconds to text you at lunch to tell you she loves you? There's no in-between classes? If she wanted to, she could, and you could. It's because you don't want to, right?
I mean, there have been legitimate reasons why I haven't texted you, but like, yeah.
Even though I knew it isn't because she's busy, it's because she doesn't want to.
I mean, the day that you blew up on me, the last time, that was legit, and that's what pissed me off the most. I literally was late to school. I think I had a practical that day. I had a math test. There was an accident on 470, so like I literally did not.
Okay.
Like, that was legitimate, and then you're trying to tell me that whatever, it doesn't matter.
If it wasn't a consistent pattern,
right,
it wouldn't be so explosive. It wouldn't be so, holy shit, she's doing it again. We literally just had this conversation 2 days ago.
So that's my whole thing, though. Like, going back to the comment about you having such a low emotional threshold, like, I texted you.
But the consistency, but the repeating patterns in my behavior is so escalating to you. But you can't hold that space for me to see how that could be.
Hear me out.
Be so frustrating for me.
Hear me out. I texted you after I got out of class, and I told you, hey, like, I'm sorry. This XYZ happened. How was I wanted to text you this morning, or I wanted to text you this morning, or I was planning on texting you when I got to campus, but XYZ happened. How was your day? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't okay, she was thinking about me. She just had a busy day. Mm-hmm. Like, she still texted me and asked me about
8 hours
my day.
Later.
She still texted me asking me about my day. It wasn't even an immediate, like, oh, okay, I got it. Like, don't get me wrong, I was a little upset, but now that you explained things,
I have to do that.
I think that we're getting off topic a little bit. I think this is one of those things that's going to spiral if we keep talking about it.
It isn't.
Okay. A human relationship is a reciprocal space, and one can only hold so much for someone else without feeling as though the same is being done for them before starting to shut down. Quote, I think back to the person you were before we started dating, when you were able to be yourself without fear of judgment. That is the girl I love. That's the girl I fell in love with. It breaks my heart to think that I've become the thing you're running from. Now I see what you were trying to tell me for so long about that controlling part of me. Then you later touch on how you don't want to bend me to your will.
And all of that is still so true. I so desperately want to be healthy. And I can get back into personal therapy to deal with those traumas within myself. I think that would be a good idea. But, like, that doesn't negate that I still need these things from you, to my baseline. And when I feel like those are being ignored, there's nothing else. Nothing else you can do will matter, you see? If I don't feel the connection, the intimacy, then nothing else matters. And there is no, like...
I don't really feel a connection or intimacy right now.
With even being here.
I mean, yeah, to a certain extent. I'm like, again, for the sake of throwing all the cards on the table in this conversation, like, I feel emotionally flatlined when it comes to this relationship. And it, like, pains me to admit that.
It shows, and it's showed for a long time. Yeah, that is painful to hear, but like I started this whole conversation with, like, I appreciate you finally admitting it. Because I've felt it for so long. And it's hard for me to just be your lover, to just act like how Kim says, just act like she's a girl that you're trying to be. You want her to be your girlfriend again.
And it's really hard for me to act like this girl who's like head over heels.
So we need to find a way where we can still we can still get our baseline little whatever from each other while restoring the other fractional parts of this relationship, right? I need to feel, I know this is gonna be really hard for you. I need to feel like you're all in, because you're not. You're not. And so, yeah. How can, I mean, it's just as like, it's so frustrating to try to go to therapy and to be so open and so like, what happened last week or this week was an explosion of desperation.
I know, but like
an explosion of desperation for answers to problems that have been avoided for so long.
Yeah, I know it's because you feel insecure, and you have every right to feel insecure. I'm not going to invalidate you in that. Do you want me to keep reading?
Sure.
To answer you about the message, or to answer your message about the role I played in creating a detached, disconnected relationship with my last partner. We have already discussed this many times.
Yeah, that was good. I remember and I accept all that.
Okay.
But I still feel like it's kind of like I have that feeling towards you. You know, you had that feeling towards Justin. Now I have that feeling towards you.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it.
Okay, so let's move on from that.
I do believe that we have a deep connection, and that there's a lot of passion behind that connection. We have an electric chemistry in our undeniable attraction to one another. However, while attraction and physical chemistry is very important, it is not everything. I believe that we have a lot in common, especially in the ways that we grew up. Sorry, my lips.
Yeah, my shit is really bad too.
There were absolutely... Oh, wait. I believe that we have a lot in common, especially in the ways that we grew up. There were absolutely quite a lot of similarities, but also many differences. I believe that because of those similarities, we understand each other we understand each other on a level that many people in our past have not been able to, which drew us together emotionally from the very start. I believe that not only have we almost trauma bonded over these things throughout the years, but that we have also closely bonded over the fact that we grew up in respectively the same hometown, and our paths crossed with similar people in our young adulthood, so we share similar memories of people, places, and experience. With that being said, the biggest, most pressing difference between the two of us, in my opinion, is how we have both dealt with and view our pasts. The relationship we have to them as a whole, the relationship we have to the people who played a role in those experiences, and the outlook we have towards life and the world.
Yeah, I thought this was really good.
I have been through therapy, albeit not in quite some time. I have since then done extensive healing work on my own by not only talking to my family about many things that happened growing up and working through them, but learning to reframe and forgive the past to move forward. I want to make it very clear that I have not forgotten it all, but I have worked very hard to make peace with it. I have developed so much more of an open, honest, and loving relationship with, most importantly, myself, as well as the people who I felt as though were worth the time to reconnect with, and have accepted that not everyone is. With those people who I, at this time, don't see fit to make an effort to incorporate back into my emotional world or life period, my father and older brother, I'm not angry. I don't particularly feel anything towards them anymore. If anything, I pity them for choosing to let their lives become what they have by destroying the relationships they could have had by holding on to an insecure, vengeful victim mentality. Furthermore, I feel as though that is how we differ and where many points of issue arise. You mentioned in our last therapy session that relationships should be playful. That's all I want. I don't want to hold on to the past. Again, I have not forgotten, but I forgive you for all the things that you've said to me. We touched on this subject when we went out to dinner the other weekend. It doesn't serve anyone to do so. However, going forward, I will not put up with it anymore. I will not tolerate what I perceive to be projections from your past that manifest themselves onto me. The way that I look at things, you are inadvertently using our differences to fuel the difference. I try to play, I try to joke around with you, but anytime I do, you take things so personally. Blatant accusations of constant disrespect ensue. I feel as though it is such a double standard between you and I. I have excused and written off so many things just to placate you, because despite what you may think, I don't want to fight with you. I'm so sick and tired of it. It literally makes me sick. I am depleted when it comes to it. I have absolutely no energy to be able to put towards it anymore, but I will also not sit there and just take this feeling of having to make myself small to make you feel big. The bottom line is that I am not responsible for your feelings, as you are not for mine. No one is responsible for anyone else's feelings but they themselves. You asked me what my void is, and to answer your question, I do not believe at this point in my life I have one. I love myself, I love my life, and the people who are in it. I love going to school, I love doing the things that bring me joy. I love being happy within myself because I am. I truly am, and it has taken me 27 years to be. I can firmly say that I do not need anyone else to make me feel this way. As sad as it makes me feel to admit, I do not feel like the best version of myself when we're together.
Let's touch on that, because I don't understand this whole feeling of you have to be small to make me feel big. Because literally, like, I want to elevate you. I want you to shine. I see you as such a powerful woman in so many different ways. And I don't want to take that from you. Like, desperately.
I'm listening, sorry, I just need to put this on flip.
I desperately don't want to take that from you. What I want to do is to find a balance, right? To where I don't feel small either, where I don't feel like you're stepping on me, right? And these things of disrespect, right? Which seems like what Kim wants to talk about next session, right? We can get into that and we can dive deeper into that, right?
But it's almost
and now,
everything.
Heather, then we can explore that together, right? It's not to be, please don't be dismissive of my effort and my willingness, right? And my openness to try to work on this relationship, right? What I'm asking of you, right? To be in, right? To be optimistic about this relationship, right? Isn't that what I've been asking you? So, yes, we have a ton of problems, a ton of issues, but we can tackle them one by one, right? And when we get over this line of where I feel disrespected, where I don't, if my feelings of disrespect are even valid, I'm open to whatever she says. If the problem is mine, I welcome it, because that's an answer. That's the answer. That's an answer. I so desperately crave any answer. I do. So desperately.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Or maybe just to ask you to, like, reflect on...
My battery's dying.
You have a USB-C, right? Is this one?
That's not good. What?
Is that one?
Yeah.
Is it on this side?
Yeah. Why is it red? Is it gonna shut off at an hour or something?
You can stop it and start on the one over if you want.